He had fallen forward and lay in the earth as though sleeping. His face had an expression of calm, as though almost glad the end had come. These were the final lines of Erich Maria Remarquois' 1928 novel, All Quiet on the Western Front. The book details the life of a German soldier, Paul Baumer, a life that ends with a young yet brutalized soul falling in the mud and blood of the First World War. I had never read a story with such a bleak and haunting conclusion. It shook me to my very core. Yet now, after reading the novel once again, I reflect on those lines, and I can't help but find parallels between that 20-year-old German soldier and our own troops. Although their banners flew different colors and rifles fired in opposing directions, the scarlet streaks of blood bled the same. Ever since the shot heard around the world, our veterans have been the backbone of our republic. At every test and every challenge within our nation's history, they have risen to the call of duty to defend their country, no matter the cost. From the American Revolution to the Civil War, or World War II to the War on Terror, our veterans have valiantly served the nation without exception. Yet there is nothing glorious about being a common soldier. On the contrary, their lives in themselves are a war, filled with bitterness and challenges that very few of us could ever endure. Deployed hundreds, if not thousands of miles away from home, often overseas, they fight and toil in lands distant from their families for years on end. For those soldiers who do return home, they struggle to adjust to civilian life and fight to mend fragile relationships damaged by extensive periods of separation. Even now, tobacco and alcohol abuse is rampant within the Army, the slow cancer of addiction spreading into soldiers' brains, searching for an escape for the things they witnessed while deployed. But none of these woes apply to the hundreds of thousands of Americans who, throughout our history, faced the same fate as that German soldier. Americans who were bayoneted at Saratoga, gunned down at Gettysburg, caught in the barbed wire and artillery fire of Omaha Beach, or ambushed in the deserts and mountains of Iraq and Afghanistan. There was no veil of grandeur or splendor for these men, only the hail of bullets, an earthy taste of blood in their mouths. So why do they do it? Why do time and time again a new generation of Americans take up arms for their country to dive headfirst into the chaos and carnage of war? They do it so that we can be free. They do it so that we can be safe. They do it so that we can pursue our happiness in a nation where our rights come not from the benevolence of a ruler or dictator, but rather a constitution that grants us the liberty to carry on our lives, unburdened by tyranny and persecution. They defend us not because of our ethnicity, religion, or political affiliation. They do it because we are Americans. There is a reason the vigor and valor of red fly side by side with the purity and innocence of white on our Star-Spangled Banner. My own grandfather served in our armed forces, an Irish immigrant arriving in New York on December 10th, 1950, entering through Ellis Island like so many others. Dirt poor, alone in a new country on that frigid December day, only 16 years old, he didn't even have an appropriately sized shirt to his name. But I imagine that as he saw that bright torch of liberty and breathed in the cool December air, he could envision a world of possibilities, a blank canvas on which to paint a new life. To earn this opportunity, he entered the Army, eventually becoming a corporal before being honorably discharged. Throughout this time, he readily served the nation that had adopted him as one of its own, and stood keen to defend the ideals of the United States. That is why our veterans are important. They work, fight, and die so that we may be free. They make the sacrifices that others are unwilling to make. For us, they pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, and oppose any foe to ensure the survival and success of liberty. They are the buoy that keeps America tethered to its belief in freedom for all. I'll leave you all with a brief reminder. On November 11th, we will celebrate Veterans Day, a day that marks the end of the First World War. So remember to thank those whom you know have served in our armed forces, and never forget the sacrifices of those who paid the ultimate price to protect our God-given natural rights. Those who, until their final moments, acted as a shield against the enemies of liberty, to defend rights that make this country undoubtedly the greatest nation on earth.